I'm live, you're live, we're live. Let's talk. I'm dealing with some confusions around my. Oh, this is not a bad setup at all. I'm using my iPhone because my fancy camera didn't work this morning. Hello, Fun Monster. Hello, Shirley Crane. Hello, Michael DeSalsa. And as for you, coughing idiot rat, bip bop. Uh, we're uh, we're becoming a fun little community here. I even got a note this morning from Jeff, who not this morning, this week from Jeff, who said he was apologetic because he didn't know if he was actually going to make it today, which is delightful. Remember last week I was ragging on him the whole time about how he was late for class. Anyway, welcome. Remember what we're doing here. We're working with your ideas. I'll give you mine when I don't hear yours. But we're so how you doing? Crazy week. How are you? I'm hanging in. But the question I have for you, Fun Monster, is whether you had ideas this week. So if you're hanging in and that's all you can do, good for you. But if you're hanging in and you are coming up with occasional ideas that you grab, you snatch out of thin air, and then you jot down just enough of a reminder of what it is that you can play with it, then come here. I've been and bring it. Any of you, bring your ideas. Just post them down there, and we'll play with them because I have lots of ideas. I live for ideas. Ideas are my confidence currency. This week I've been thinking a lot about confidence and confidence currencies and affirmationomics and reassuronomics or egonomics. There is actually a field called egonomics. It's about short-term versus long-term cost benefit analysis. I think that doesn't get to the heart of it. And I like the name egonomics because it's so obviously where it belongs, but ego is such a funny word. It's not even what we're talking about when we talk about egomania. We're talking about id mania. So if you remember how Freud had it, you have your id impulses, which is where idiot comes from. It's I, me, which we see from the Trumpists to such extent. And then you've got the superego, which is what you should do. So there's a pleasure principle, which is just what you want. And then there's what you should do. And in between is the ego, which is the self identity. So egonomics is not really the right term. It's actually idnomics, or managing this need we have for confidence, for just to feel comfort in our own skin remains the highest priority for humans. And language is kind of an overlay on that. But if you really want to understand what we are, Freud said in essence, we're driven by libido. I think it's libigo. It's the ego. I need reassurance. I'm a human being. I can imagine all this stuff in the dark of night. I'm barely hanging in there, as Fun Monster mentions. And so if you want to watch what's going on and explain and predict what humans are likely to do, they say in economics, follow the money. Money is also a form of confidence. Follow the confidence. Look for that. And if you want to manage your own confidence and not end up running into a brick wall like the MAGA people do, you need to to at least admit that you are driven to a large extent by your need for confidence, or at least I'll speak for me. I will. I am driven by my need for confidence. If I don't have confidence, I feel like I haven't got enough sleep, or like I got the flu, or like I've got a rash. If I'm dealing with doubt, if I get too much doubt, I'll end up with self-doubt. All of that stuff. I'm saying that's where we need to focus, and we don't want to. Again, I'll say it that if I said I need a partner because I need to have sex, that would be socially acceptable. If I said I needed a partner because I needed confidence, that would not be impressive to anybody. So it's this weird black market that I'm focusing on. Okay, I watch a video about how people end up right or left, and it's more about how people are influenced by family, local culture, religion, etc. I wonder how we can use this. Well, it's certainly a major influence. One way we talk about it in economics is where you stand depends on where you sit. And I would probably take it another step. So obviously, people are influenced by all of that, but you, the question is, are they influenced in how they take influences? So, for example, I put out Trump tells it like it is this week, or maybe 2 weeks ago. This one I've been doing them daily, and um, he's talking about let's see, he's talking about how he loves the church because it grooms people for blind, proud faith. Trump is talking about that. So um, yes, it makes a big difference where you where you come from, your family, your influence, your local culture, all of that. Um, it's what I've referred to in the past here as the locally liked story. So I see us as dealing with the likely story, that is what's true about reality, for example, gravity, and then we've got the locally liked story, and then there's the personally likable story, which is where our need for confidence drives things. Is that locally is my need for a likable story. Basically a story that makes me feel likable to myself, because it's really hard to get through life if you don't like yourself. Um, so all of that's interesting to me because as usual, I try to think deeply about simple things. I'm trying to get to the essence of what's going on with us, the patterns underlying it all. Let's see. Anything that is true doesn't need to be defended. I'm okay. Yes, yeah. I have a different version of that. So try this one out. All truisms are half truths. And if you want to get at the other half, ask why, if it's so damn true, do people have to keep on saying it? So, to give you an example, people say perseverance furthers. Uh, okay, well, if that was always true, then you would need to say it, like your quote says there. Okay, well, why do we need to say perseverance furthers? Because it doesn't always further. Because we are dealing with the fact that sometimes we need to quit doing something. Not the Trumpists, of course, they have to fight, 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 and never give up and all that bullshit. But so I'm interested, as you know, in thinking in stereo, in thinking in paired opposites. And so anything that's true doesn't need to be defended. That's also borderline as a quote. It's in the realm of the kind of wishful thinking quotes that I find increasingly suspect. For example, crime doesn't pay. That's a kind of hope. I've been thinking about it, hope, rethinking hope, and then rethinking my rethinking about it. But anyway, yeah, anything that's true doesn't need to be defended is so obviously wishful thinking. That's not how the world works. It's like the arc of the universe bends towards justice. It's a hopeful thing to say, but it's a kind of hope that makes for complacency. Um, so yeah, I don't subscribe to that, and feel free to push back on that, Michael. This is not just me opining or the Pope pontificating in response, but I am teasing out some questions that would come up for me around that quote. Around anything is that is true doesn't need to be defended. So when I hear an interesting quote, it's not. I don't want to be distracted by the confidence it gives me to say it. I want to actually get down to understanding what it's trying to do, uh, what it's trying to say, and whether or not it's true. Um, for example, if that were true, the other thing you do is you double down on it. So if that statement was true, it wouldn't need to be stated. I like that one. Okay, there's this body language channel called Dr. G Explains, who seemingly can't contain his contempt for Mamdani, but portraying him as dishonest and angry. He presents it as though it's nonpartisan. Well, this is a big thing. Came up yesterday in a meeting, a science, a research meeting on AI. One researcher, a good friend out of Norway, who's a social anthropologist, um, he brought up the distinction between thinking fast and thinking slow. You've heard about this concept, right? Thinking fast is just the intuitive things we do. It's the biases and heuristics that they talk about in social science. Thinking slow is the kind of deliberation we do. And my response to him is AI is going to give us ways to pretend that we're thinking slow when we are thinking fast. That's what I expect. That's what people would want. What people would want is science finally proves what my gut has always wanted to believe all along. This would be part of our just the essence of us. So let me just try this out. It's uh, if you think of life as having wants, bigger wants, it would be if you think about evolution as having a bigger want. It doesn't, but let me just voice it. If it could voice it, it would be something like let the best plan win, and it damn well better be mine. That would be, I mean, evolution, the value in evolution comes from this trial and error process, and we're all trials in this trial and error process. And so at the human level, it becomes, I just want the truth, and it better be affirming. That's like, let the best plan win, and it damn well better be mine. So yes, you're going to get a lot of that auto magic critic, um, and on all sides. Uh, I, and this is worth noticing too. I was late to realize, so the Trumpists felt triumphal in 2016 for knowing that he would win. I didn't think he would win as likely. I I drove to Nevada to make sure he didn't win, but I had my hopes up. In fact, I talked 2 nights before. I talked with the guy who was the campaign manager for Kamala Harris. He was a major campaign manager for Biden. He happened to show up at a public policy event. I went to this graduate school in public policy, and I asked him point blank what he thought the odds were, and he said 100% sure that Clinton is going to win. Don't worry. He after that he went on and became the CEO of Uber or something. I forget his name. But anyway, he reassured us all and he was wrong. Why were we wrong and the Trumpists were right? Well, because we had so much contempt for what he was doing that we couldn't imagine. I still hear from people say, I can't believe that people still support him. I saw Robert De Niro say it yesterday. Um, well, so it's easy to spot the flaws in whoever you hate. And it's harder to spot the flaws in those people who are, you could say, allies in your own confidence. Um, so, uh, in a way, the Trumpists gloated about how they knew he would win, as if it proves they know everything. But it was easier. It was harder for us to see that he would win because he was not on our side. Something like that. I don't think I said that quite right, but anyway, there we go. Um, yeah, so this thing where we're going to get a lot of this. I came up with a lousy name for it this week, but I'm still working on a better name. I called it adornography. Not a good name, but it's logical. It's got adore, adorn, and pornography in it. And it's about a kind of video I'm seeing a lot of these days. I might have mentioned it last week. It's where you get AI to make you look like a genius by writing your script, voicing it in a compelling rhetorical voice, and ornamenting it with all of this B-roll, AI B-roll. Um, and there's a proliferation of these, and these are people who are pontificating about the way of the world, and usually it's got some technology and science and neuroscience talk in there. We're going to be flooded with that. It's very much like what Auto Magic Critic is talking about here. These are videos where someone says, well, I'm an expert on something and I am going to tell you how the world works. And what they're really doing is giving you fast thinking, not thinking slow, but thinking fast, reassurance, confidence. That it makes the reader feel like a genius, makes the viewer feel like a genius. And to spot that in yourself, to spot that in others, really, I think, follow the confidence. Follow where people are getting their confidence. Okay, let's see what we got here. You might be interested in the work of Hiram, the myth of left and right. Um, yeah, there we go. Okay, and then let's see, clarity over certainty or strong opinions loosely held. Um, Clarity's also, yeah, clarity over certainty. Um, that's an interesting pairing that I wanted to talk about. I realized it at the end of the last session. It's fun working among academics. Uh, they uh, they have to be assertive with their surmisals, their guesses, their conjectures. So this has been a personal problem for me because I work among those people. I try to be precise in what I say, and people end up thinking that I'm a hard ass. And then they get surprised when I actually change my mind about something. Because they expect if someone's going to be that pointed or that clear about what they say, um, it sounds like that they feel like a genius and they've got it all figured out. But you can knock a good academic over with a feather. Not just academics. I just think it's the fundamental thing. So this is again about fallibilism. To no matter how confident I am in a bet, I remain still more confident that it is a bet. Do you see how that works? I can be really confident in a bet, but I have to remember that it is a conjecture. It's a bet. Okay. Let's see. So if I'm wrong, I'm less than. Let's see. Absolute say if I'm wrong, I'm less than. I would rather if I'm wrong, I grow. That's yeah. Rob, you're on to what we were talking about. I don't know where I did it in a video this week. Yeah, identifying as learning, not learned. Um, my brother, who is a learned scholar in English, was a little troubled by me talking like that. He said, "There's nothing wrong with saying you're learned." Um, I'm making a distinction, a black and white distinction there. Fully learned, like you've solved reality, is a human appetizer. It's the ultimate uh, comfort fix. It's like you have gotten the last fix you need. You are inoculated against doubt forever. Um, and that's the problem because then you stake your entire identity on it. Um, and if you can't stand corrected, you fall corrected. Whereas if you identify as learning, which I am not just performing for you, this is how I live because of who I live with, because of the people I encounter, the people, the community, my local community. We're a community that rewards um, people who are pursuing the likelier story and see that as constant growth. It's just once again, my peers and my mentors have been like that. And we watch what happens when someone comes in, struts into our community and starts talking like a know-it-all, and they don't last. And we laugh at them. It's not fun to be around those people. We don't laugh at them in their face. I sometimes go. I'm a little blunter than Terry, my research colleague, on this stuff. I have been a little more pointed with some of them, but they usually end up leaving because they want to feel like they've solved it already. That would be a human need. Okay. Um, okay, let's see. Okay. If I'm wrong, let's even in all, hello, crumbly blunder trust. I need a better name. What am I trying? Being is that what I? That's what I am. Okay, let's see. I'm thinking of thousands of documentaries like Zeitgeist and What the Bleep Do We Know? Uh, being Matt, you are exactly that. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And actually, What the Bleep Do We Know came up this week in conversation with someone about exactly that. That was a precursor of what AI will regurgitate from every possible angle. Okay. Did you enjoy the Revelation Stage 1 last week? Yes. And I'm guessing many of us did. And yet, my immediate thought, and I noticed me having it, and I posted it, is now MAGA knows they have to stop the 2026 election. Um, if they didn't know it before. So this is once again this thing about recursion. It's about coevolution, um, strategy, counter strategy, counter strategy, that sort of thing, which I find a little negative in me. I should have taken, I could have taken a victory lap. I donated to the Prop 50 campaign, the Yes on Prop 50 campaign. No, I I don't want to. I'm sobered out of that sense that now we're in the clear. I have been for 15 years or so on the fence about whether democracy was going to kill this before this killed democracy. And I remain on the fence. I'm just, yeah. And some people see that as pessimistic, but not these days. Actually, everybody's catching up with me in the white knuckle ride. No, what I don't mean that sounds pompous. What I mean is that I used to have more friends who would say people are going to wake up and come around and Trump won't last. And by now it's beaten out of us, which is really good for our health. I'm really grateful for this era if we survive it. I think this is just what we needed. I put that out in a video this week that 15, 20 years ago, I was wishing for a showdown between shitheads and people who can manage their confidence more safely or sanely because I didn't think we were going to survive. And the little dings that we were getting from George Bush and all these people, we still had this sense that it can't happen here. And, in 2014, I'm writing, it can happen here. It is happening here. Um, so, and why? Because I think, well, because I'm psycho-Semitic, I'm Jewish, um, and prone to that kind of pessimism. It's built right into the irony of Jewish culture. It's also my personal bitch slapping, which I don't talk about much and don't get to talk about much, but that I was trapped, cornered, obligated to deal with someone who was very, very Trumpian in the generic sense, not right wing at all, just all of these moves for 20, 30 years. I'm talking about my son, and I can't talk about my son, but my firstborn, it behaves like Trump. And so that's what sobered me out of this sense that everybody was going to wake up. Can't talk about it because I lose credibility in any way. He's got his privacy. He talks about me quite a bit. You could probably find him disparaging me somewhere online. At least when I hit big on YouTube, people got in touch and said, we looked you up and we found these quotes from your son. But anyway, that's why, not because I'm smart, probably also because I'm safe, and also because I haven't turned my safety into reassurance. I've turned it into freedom to doubt more. I don't know what I'm talking about. Never believe me when I self-describe, and never believe anybody when they self-describe. Don't take my word for it. I'd be the last to know if I'm not the one I describe myself to be. Okay, let's see. Trying not to let the good news go to my head, Fun Monster, but it sure felt great. Yes. Yeah. So I'm still thinking about the variety of factors, big scale factors that are going on here. One is the United States is not used to authoritarian dictatorship. Um, that's a good. That's an argument in favor of that the resistance has more oomph in it. At the same time, we're not accustomed to risking our lives in the resistance. We're not people who are used to that the way that, let's say, someone who had come out of World War One in France and then had to deal with World War II and became a French resistance fighter and put their lives on the line for it. We're not used to that. Okay, so that's an argument why the resistance might be less effective. Um, uh, there were a few others I thought of this week. One has to do with a kind of jadedness. Um, my assumption is that rhetoric or manipulation tools accumulate exponentially. If we find a trick that works, it spreads rapidly and never gets forgotten. But a sucker is born every minute. So I see this widening gap between the powers of manipulation and our ability to inoculate or get jaded to them. At the same time, what we're getting from the Trumpists is such an overdose of such tinny, hollow reassurance, self-reassurance for him. The movement is all about their confidence. It's a confidence addiction. And and the confidence addiction grows. The way I was thinking about it this way is Trump. I wrote it up as an AI Trump guy, as an AI Trump telling it like it is. He says, "I've proven that you don't need thoughts, beliefs, ideas, policies. You just need absolute confidence. I ran on nothing but pretending I'm always right, righteous, and mighty." But then he goes on to say, the suckers who support me are so desperate for confidence that they will sacrifice their children. They will sacrifice everything for the confidence I afford. And I can be as stupid, mean, and evil as I want. And in fact, that's how I show I have invulnerable confidence. That they lap that up, that I keep on fucking up, that I keep on being stupid and remain still confident enough to talk like I am the foremost living authority on what's right, righteous, and mighty, is what they are drawn to because they feel like fuck ups. And so they want that absolute confidence. They need, if I was a competent person in the world, competent and confident, that wouldn't give them the sense that I have invulnerable, impenetrable confidence. That I'm a total shithead really demonstrates it. It's in what biology what we call the handicap principle. The handicap principle is a explanation for sexual selection. For example, why do peacocks have those incredible ungainly feathers? Why do males have that? It proves they've got good genes. It's what they call non-falsifiable. You can't fake it. There's another name for it. I call it poser proof. You can't fake it. You got to have good genes if you're going to carry around an antlers rack like that or plumage like that, because it's terrible. It's terribly inconvenient when you're avoiding predators to have feathers like that. And you need to be very strong to hold up a rack like the elk have. So that's a form of sexual selection. I think there's just an idea this morning. The more of a doofus Trump is, while maintaining absolute confidence, the more attractive he is to that in us which seeks confidence. So that's a new one I'm playing with. Okay, so let's see. Complacency is cancerous in these situations. That's Sir Crumbly Blundertruss. That's been on my mind this week because I've been trying to work out how I feel about hope, and I got a wonderful insight from a 92-year-old friend of mine when she says, "Well, hope is different from optimism." And I thought at first, and then I sat with it, and I thought, no, actually, there's that difference. And so this relates to the quote above, that thing about what's true you don't have to say, or crime doesn't pay, or the arc of the universe. Those are ways of saying we're going to win anyway. It's inevitable. Because crime doesn't pay, because the arc of the universe bends towards justice. Trust the process, it's going to work. And it can breed two things. One is confidence, but also the self-confidence of being the one who represents that. Like you're a genius prophet from the future, and you are an extoller of virtue, and you're saying virtue will prevail. So I think you get really distracted by that. One can get really distracted by that. I think we did for years. The left did, annoying as heck to the right that we did that, and now they're doing it in spades. But it can breed complacency. Whereas wanting something different from what we've got, that kind of hope can be mobilizing. Now, so that was one place I thought was my resting place on the question of hope, and then a question teased out of that, which is, um, you ever see the boxers who, the YouTube shorts where the boxers are up in each other's face and one of them is saying, "I'm gonna win, I'm gonna beat your ass," and all that sort of stuff. The stuff that the Trumpists have been saying in spades. It's like 2016, they said, "We've won, game over, there's no more game ever again." There is a rhetorical use to that move. Um, that borders on complacency. Many of those YouTube shorts of the boxers are almost like morality tales where the one who boasted most gets beaten best. So, but there is a tension around that. I have no problem saying to Trumpists um, that this is going to fail, even though I know in myself that MAGA is going to fail, even though I know myself that it's much more iffy than that. So there is a rhetorical use for the optimism move, but I think it's best if you don't believe it. That you use it. This is the thing. I'm into a kind of talking to Trumpists where I'll say things I don't actually believe, but I think are useful rhetorically. But I have to keep track, or else I could start to believe them. So anyway, there's that. Okay, do you have? Let's see. Um, it feels like clarity, but it's camouflage. Um, do you have to look up this? Let's say I would have. Let's see. I'm not sure what it feels like clarity, but it's camouflage is responding to. Um, complacency. Yeah. So surely you might be talking about the kind of camouflage where you hide behind your faith in an inevitable future. I am interested in camouflage for a few reasons. One is very fundamental in semiotics. So, from my perspective, semiotics is how we interpret anything, how anything is interpreted, and the most basic form of interpretation is a failure to distinguish. As you don't start by distinguishing things, life would have started with almost no capacity to distinguish one situation from another. So interpretation starts with no capacity to distinguish. And that's called iconicity in semiotics. It's a failure to distinguish. For example, I see your name here, and I'm assuming that you're the Shirley Crane I talked to on Facebook last week. So I'm just a failure to distinguish. You could be a twin, you could be an imposter, you could have stolen her Shirley's identity, whatever. I will have missed that. Camouflage. So in general, in semiotics, we talk about iconicity like, oh, that picture resembles him, like it's an active move, but it's actually more like camouflage. Because it's a failure to see distinctions. So there's that. The other part, I did make a video at one point in which I was a Trumpist and I was disappearing into my banner and I was using transparency because I actually don't want to be seen. I want to be seen as as MAGA, something like that. So that's a way in which camouflage does fit in, and where we can stop thinking because we feel invisible, because we identify with some crusade. Could be anything. Dan Cummings, do you think high control, rigid religions laid a psychological groundwork for this desire to for absolute conflict? Thank you for that question. It's right up my alley. I would say yes, and I would go one step further back than that. And I did write it up this week as a retelling of Genesis, and I'm going to find it because it's short. I'm not the whole of Genesis, but the but the beginning of it. It's got to do with words. Um, Language is what I think makes for this um, craving completeness, craving confidence that is absolute. That is kind of fundamental for me. And the thing starts with, let me see if I can find it here. Oh, so much stuff. One second here. Sorry about this. Uh, I could look it up someplace else too. Oh, here we go. And read this. In the end of the beginning was the word, human language, after 4 billion years of life's evolution. And the word was God, an imaginable force outside nature that explained by miracle non-explanation, anything we didn't understand. And the word was many gods favored by different tribes, insisting that their God favored their words to be the last words. The tree of knowledge was words, an infinitude of apples, and with them an infinite imaginable, the infinite imaginable. And for eating of that tree, we were thrown out of Eden, paradise, a word that originally meant walled around, protected. World hurled out into the vast world's infinite possibilities. World hurled out for realizing that we were naked, able to see through the walls protecting us from self awareness, the wordless wall that protects all other beings from witnessing their own naked, vulnerable lives. It goes on from there. So, yes, religion from the beginning would have played that role. It's a source of confidence and reassurance, and it can be done in healthy ways or unhealthy ways. My main message is self-love is crucial, but get a room, don't let it go to your head, uh, um, and zip up after. That is, you need your confidence boost, and then you need to get back to reality. But it's really addictive. So, um, okay, so yeah, that would be my answer. And and I in more recently, I would say, so there's competition among the religions and the sects. Remember, there's 45,000 different Christian sects and something like 4,000 religions all over the world, and they're all in their own way vying for attention. They need it needs to be a cash cow. It needs to flow through. You need money to make those things work. You need attention, and also the attention is what everybody's after, which is that mass thing. So you get these mass churches that are making it as simple as possible. It's thinking fast, presented as thinking slow, like I was talking about. These people who pore over the Bible or read their sermons or talk in those somewhat studious sounding voices when they're serving up reassurance. And what you would get over time is the stripping away of any effort necessary by the person involved. All they have to do is be born again. That is, you lower the barrier to entry as low as possible. You get as many people in who are in it, milking it for the confidence. Fucking groomed Trump. I mean, perfectly. It was the perfect groomer for Trump. And I have religious friends, and for the most part, I'm just trying to say, yeah, I'm like that too. I need my confidence boost. I get it from movies. I get it from porn. I get it from talking. I get it from playing music. Different people get it different ways. We all need it. That kind of thing. That's my approach to that. Okay. They ignored No King's protest at their own peril. Saw lots of coping mechanisms this week after elections. Yeah, I want to talk about that, Rob. That's a great thing. So there is part of this confidence boosting we might do is to treat them like they're wobbling, like they're holding on by a skin tag. They're barely able to keep it together. um i I probably, yeah, so I get a little wary of that. I think it's true, but I also think that they're actually robotic. They're one trick phony. They will do exactly the same thing. What Trump did this time after the election on Tuesday night is completely predictable. I could have written his text for that. And this is where I think the jadedness might be a benefit, is that we're seeing the same old from him over and over. And they have no plan B, which is why they're going to stick to this to the end. So I do not think that that they're feeling any kind of doubt like I might project onto them where they're thinking, maybe I need to change my act. They can't. It's gone robotic. The entire movement is zombie-like this way, from my perspective, and would be if it was a leftist movement. Yeah, it's got nothing to do with politics. It's just about the confidence. They have found a confidence cash cow and they're milking it, and nothing else matters. And they will milk it by saying, by hemming and hawing. Um, they ignored the protest at their own peril. Notice what that is, Rob, because that's right along the lines of what I was talking about before. Um, at their own peril, we'll see. That's the kind of you guys are doomed that I will use rhetorically, but do not want to believe because I'm actually trying to keep realistic about what we're up against. And we are up against the world's most effective, quick, like speedy confidence engine. That's that's all I think we're up against. I mean, there is an agenda there, but what's fueling that agenda is confidence, unflappable confidence. So just keep that in mind as you say those things, because um, because it's a useful thing to say, perhaps to a Trumpist. You ignore that at your own peril. Um, but I'm not sure that it. I'm not. I don't want to misread them as worried, because I think at this point they have no choice. They could be worried. I'm amazed that any of them sleep through the night, but there's a kind of a psychopathic gliding over it that impresses me. I've seen it in others. I was asking a friend of mine um, who he had started Rockport Shoes, and and then he sold it, and then he ran out of money, and then he started a new business called Samuel Hubbard Shoes. And I hadn't seen him in a while, and I asked how it was going. He says, "Well, I'm $25 million in debt." And I said, "Does that bother you?" He said, "No, not really. No, it's okay." I'm not like that. I'm a different kind of person. But you can imagine when you get these kind of econopaths or political psychopaths, their entire local world is affirming them for staying within that robotic game. And um, and so I don't expect them to wake up, or if they wake up, they'll yes, it's a longer question. Let's see. The video I referred to also brought up how a person choose right or left based on one issue. Um, yeah, okay. Now the question is it based on one issue, or do they topple one way or another for confidence based on one issue? From my perspective, if you've got look, let's try this out. I know a fair number of Jewish people, um, uh, and some of them are very much focused on um, the the way that the Jews are acting like Nazis in Gaza, and some are really Zionist, and they're interesting to watch because of this. Okay, so they've got their commitment, their one issue, and and they will make only arguments for that issue in their favor. They will pull out facts and stuff like that. Like, for example, one of them was a friend I've trusted and liked lots, and she posted something where it showed Mondami with his hand around some dangerous character, like would happen at a political rally, and she's saying, "See, you know, this guy." And I had to ask her, "What do you think of Donald Trump?" She says he's a terrible, horrible person. But I had to ask her because, in general, you'll see someone flip all the way one way or another. You know, I have another friend, Zionist friend, who is pro-Trump for that reason. Um, anyway, so yes, there's a way in which you can relax into a source of confidence if you've got one plausible, self-respecting way to rationalize it. The way I think of it is one of humankind's fundamental one of our fundamental prayers is God grant me one good reason, one plausible reason for what I just did or for what I want to do. That is, the reasons come after, but they have to maintain our confidence. So again, this may sound complicated because I'm talking about, okay, is it before or after? Do you do it based on one issue, or do you do it for confidence? But actually, I'm trying to say follow the confidence. If you want to understand people, if you want to predict people's behavior, your best bet is to follow where they're getting their confidence from, because we all need it. We're all treading water in too many ideas, too much world. It's just too much. And so we are trying to figure out how to create a bubble in which we can live, a way to filter what's outside, what's inside. And uh, and so, if you want to predict someone's behavior and they're partnered, a good source of prediction is whatever will keep their partner supplying confidence to them. Or it's reversed. This is a fundamental problem in psychology. It's that one way or another, they can be influenced by their partner's presence, but they could flip either way. Try this out. If you're the son of a rock star, you'll either probably become a rock star or become anything but a rock star. This is a fundamental problem in human behavior because we have this approach avoidance thing. It's a little hard to predict, but one way or another, I'm saying if you see where someone's getting their confidence, they may switch to another source and reject their source of confidence. I once was lost, but now I'm found, kind of thing. But the confidence will tell you where they're likely going. Okay, so let's see. I'm just taking a look. Okay, here. Follow up from Dan's question. Is America more susceptible to cults than elsewhere? Yes, I would say so from my perspective, uh, because of our founding and because of our circumstances. So we, this was an incredible windfall. It's like the last um, relatively unpopulated land. And yet all these Europeans who were already, they had inherited enlightenment or scientific thinking from Islam. When Islam dropped it around 1100, um, uh, we ended up picking it and running with it. And so you had all these tools, the guns, germ, steel sort of argument. Um, and we land in this incredible bounty that is not just rich in resources, but it's also not surrounded by enemies. And we were also people who left um, England because we had our ideological commitments that were not being tolerated there. And most of our ideological commitments were more severe than the church in England at the time, the Puritans and all of these new Protestant sects that had just blown up, and they came over here and they landed and they saw it as a city on the hill and as God's reward. Remember, once again, God grant me one good reason for what I did. Give me some sign that I deserve all the confidence I want. We had that. And then there was a big there was a big there was a bunch of new communes or actual cults that started around the 1840s in America, because you go off and find your own place and start one of these communes or cults, and some of them were admirable in their own ways. You ever see an Amana refrigerator? That comes from a cult that was started in the Amana community that was started in the 1840s. Last night I watched a wonderful show on Netflix about who put the Klan in Ku Klux Klan, and it's about so this is a great parallel to what's going on in Israel right now. It's about the Scottish origins of um, racism in the South. It's fascinating. It's not a story I knew. I have played bagpipes. I was a member of the Prince Charles Pipe Band for a while in my youth. It might be one of the reasons I lost my hearing, was that we would practice in gymnasiums with, a full marching band, and my ears would ring. But anyway, no, I've had a real appreciation for Scottish culture, but I didn't know this dark side story. So these are a bunch of people who left Scotland and landed in Appalachia and couldn't go further. They were kind of trapped on all sides. And they were the slaves. They were the sharecroppers in Scotland who couldn't afford to pay for their sharecropping, so they moved to the United States, and they end up becoming the racist slave masters. And one of the effects that interests me a lot, it was a comment made to me by a friend of mine in Mexico. He said, if you live in a culture where there are two kinds of people, the oppressed and the oppressors and the oppressed, um, if that's your local moral world, there are the haves and the have-nots, the masters and the slaves, then you're very likely to not have any trouble if you get into the position of master. There's no moral compunction about it. I mean, why would you feel bad about it? You're one or the other. Which would you rather be? I think that relates to what Israel has done. I mean, it's tragically ironic that these people who had gone through all of that, uh, at least some of them, didn't learn the lesson enough to not apply it. They are acting like Nazis from my perspective, and I think that's just a human thing. So remember, I had this conversation, you might remember, with my Zionist pro-Trump friend, where I asked him, he said that he didn't see anything fascist about Trump or authoritarian about Trump. And he would know because his father had been through the Holocaust. I said, you can think of any reason why you might be blind to that? And he couldn't think of any. But I thought right away, obviously, if you've been oppressed, of course you if you guys get to be the next oppressors, why would you worry? What would be the problem with that? I mean, you look at most revolutions in world history, by far, it's just the next oppressor coming into power. So I'm not a fan of revolutions that way. I, I like the music, but I don't believe in them. I think they're more dangerous than they're worth. And so if we could focus on this, oh, that issue, we may have a better chance of persuading them. Okay, I would say, so Fun Monster, I want to ask you to do this. Take that statement and think of what might not work about that and do it from personal experience. Think about what was an issue that you really cared about at one time or another. And if someone came to you and challenged you on that commitment, um, now we've talked in the Sunday group, which is meeting tomorrow, about where you say, "Yeah, no, I feel you. I'm on the same page as you." And yesterday, Fun Monster, you said that you liked my response to the Trumpists, where I said, "You're against pedophilia, me too." That approach, where you get on the same side of the table with them, that's got some chance. But if you've got here, try this out. I've got a I've got a Trump supporting friend who tells me, and I believe him, that he's doing it because nothing is more precious to him than human life. And he's not making the abortion argument. This guy I know him well. Um, no, he really cares about humanity. He wants humans to be safe, um, and feel and not be oppressed. And so he's supporting Trump. Okay, so now he's got a link between his top priority cause. It's not abortion. It's humans, humanity, and Trump. Now, the question for you, Fud Monster, is what would you say to burrow in there to get him to think about that connection? You you may be able to relate to this because there were things you cared about and you link them to something that you no longer link them to. You now see, actually, no, that's actually going the other way. You want to go this way. You want to go this way, and it turns out you were headed that way, and so you turned around. So how do you do that? Now, I had an idea last night about this that I'll be working a lot because I'm still trying to come up with words to try on Trumpists. And remember, from my perspective, um, how do you think he will? No, so yes, you could say, how do you think he'll save humanity? Great. That's what you do. This is I mean, I'm kind of late coming to it, but what these people want is confidence. And one way to give them confidence is to talk to them as if they know something. Don't tell them that they don't know something, which I do lots, but ask them like they're an authority and get them to stretch. So, for example, an example I came up with last night was to ask them, "This is great. I see where you really seem to think about this a lot. So, what do you think happens after Trump makes America great again? What do you bet?" And I'm asking a neutral question. I'm not asking to challenge him. I'm asking him to get him to think it up a notch. Because in general, I don't assume that they are thinking beyond their day of victory and happily ever after. But if I treat them like they're kind of an expert, and I don't ask your question, how do you think he'll save humanity, as a rhetorical question. You have to make this a genuine question. You have to say, that's I see, I get it. You really care about humanity. And what do you see in Trump that that makes you, that convinces you that he's the best route to saving humanity? And then to keep on asking questions. This is basically street epistemology. Um, yeah, I think I've had resistance to adopting it when I'm, because I deal with mostly Trump trolls, but I do use it one on one. And if you know anybody like that, try that out with them. I mean, if you know anybody one on one who um, has a cause, a one cause. I'm talking to Fun Monster again. They have one cause that made them to decide to flip one way or another, um, and uh, and then you might try that technique with them. Okay. Um, let's see. Let's see. Michael de Sousa Cruz. We still have to have a conversation. I have to tell you, I'm a yeah, I wonder about the confidence that could come from MMT, the way I wonder about the confidence that comes up from any simple solution. So so that I tell you that as a way to help you um, influence me, because now you know where my doubts are. They're not running deep into the details. Um, I have run with many things like that. I ran with ecological economics like that. So that's just something. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. Let's see. Makes sense that this would proliferate in the era of media algorithms, as the algorithms can feed this quick confidence hit demand. I think that's what's driving it. I think if you look at how Zuckerberg and any of the social media people have made their money, it's in the economic world. They make it by giving people a way to express their confidence and um, and get affirmed for their confidence. That's what they are selling. And I would say the same about all of the movie moguls, and I would say the same about most of politics. It's really, it's gotten simpler and simpler for me. That is, we humans need all the confidence we can get. Follow the confidence. Look at the supply of and demand for confidence, and you'll have a better understanding of what we are than if you get distracted by a bunch of different things, different details. Um, that's my sense of it. Uh, okay. How do you think? Anthony Magnabosco. Don't know the name. Feel free to tell me about him, or I'll just go look him up later. I'm going to take it down here and look it up later. I don't know who he is, but I'll look it up. Um, I'm trying to look at my own discomfort as data or information to learn from. I can't stop involuntary reactions. Perhaps I can lessen the time I live in those moments. Th- Great. Okay. So, um, yeah, there's a lot of talk about slowing down or thinking before you act, that kind of thing. There's always been a lot of that. Even back to my childhood, the whole thing about counting to 10 before you speak, uh, um, there's that. I'm not sure you're speaking to that. I'm trying to look at my own discomfort as data information to learn from. Yeah, that's the introspective thing that I'm advocating this week. I I decided to call it introspectator sports. Let me explain what I mean by that. Let's see. Um, Hold on a second. Good. Okay, you were for the flat tax. Right. Before you understood the problem with flat taxes uh, is that they charge the poor more. Anyway, um, trying to look at my own discomfort. So there's a recursive thing that I'm seeing in this introspectator sport. So the way I got thinking about it is noticing my own um, ease playing a MAGA dumbass, and not I don't and I was trying to play what convincingly. So I could have gotten all sorts of glee from playing a MAGA dumbass for laughs. Like, look at those fools out there. But I knew from the start, based on a Malcolm Gladwell thing on the difference between satire and irony, as I read it, um, that I'm going to try to play it straight. Um, so that I was very confusing. I was going to be as convincing as possible as a MAGA person, saying earnest things. And then I realized, okay, might have mentioned this last week. I realized that I do that because there's nothing that they do that am not familiar with. Okay, so there's a way in which you've got to look at your own shit, your own data. This, even if it's the discomfort. Um, Okay, I see where you're going here. Your own discomfort as data. Yeah, this is really important from my perspective. Um, yeah, I'll often stop to notice why I feel like I got a thread on my sweater that's torn and hung up on something. I have to kind of trace it back. What was it that made me feel that way? I got to kind of manage that to notice when there's um, one way to talk about it is that you've got your mojo bucket and something pops a hole in it and it's starting to leak out, and you better notice where it is leaking out. Um, uh, let's see. And you okay? So I can't stop involuntary reactions. Perhaps I can lessen them if I live in those moments. Yeah. Okay. So um, if you visit those moments, I'm not one of these guys who says live in the present. I don't even know what it means. And I should know because I was around a whole lot of people who said it, including Ram Dass. I spent time with him, and I still don't know what be here now exactly means, but I do know that it's a way that people feel um they feel proud to say it. And I do know I have this experience of living in the moment. I don't think that's what you're saying. So I'm off on a tangent here. When the past and the future look so terrifying to me, I will want to huddle in the moment. I think that's what the Trumpists are doing. They're very be here now because they can't afford to think about the past or future. Um, but you could so if you can get more comfortable with your discomfort might be what you're saying. And I think there is something to that. I think that's what's going on. If you identify as learning, not learned, what you're doing is getting okay with not being okay. Um, and it's easier if you're not okay is not that bad. So my not okays have not been that bad. You know, if I was born into far less luck, I have to acknowledge it would be much harder to get okay with not being okay. And I'll have that at some point, perhaps, most likely. That is, there will come crises for America, for my personal family, for my health, whatever. Um, for example, I don't yet know that I would be able to sleep well within a week after getting a possibly terminal cancer diagnosis. I mean, I don't know that is a discomfort that I'm untested that way. So I just have to acknowledge that. But anyway, give us more on that if you want, Rob, because I'd like to understand what you're talking about there. Let's see. Uh, how do you mean about the details? Well, I haven't pored over the details. I've read the general thesis of MMT, and I've read some of the reviews of it. Um, and I'm not as enthusiastic about it as a solution as you seem to be. And I do hear in it, even in you, Michael, um, a confidence in it that I don't share. That's what it comes down to. And since we're talking about confidence, and since you're drawn to my work on absolutism and this human appetite to feel like we've solved reality, um, you could say I'm more snagged on the details than you are. That is, I don't think that you can just print money without consequences. But then again, I haven't read that much into it. You also got to remember that for me, it's a peripheral issue. I'm not focused much on monetary policy at this point. I'm much more focused on economics. So I may not be someone who will be sellable on this idea anyway, because I'm not going to pour the time into it. Um, yeah, I have. And then you could say another thing about it is that if we could print all the money we wanted, I don't think it would go to. I'm still more focused on a system that would not spend it on public schools and education and all of that anyway. Complicated. You need it. I've told you we need to talk, Michael. I'm around. We should talk. And whatever happens, it's just two guys exploring, and I ain't no expert on that stuff anyway. Watch video on how you CIA manage. Okay, you say. Okay, so I'm gonna say this about. Yeah. Okay, so there is what they call doom scrolling is also something that I'm doing less of these days, which is where you're looking at one crime after another. Um, But this you're talking about 1961, so I'm interested in the history. Um, so yes, I should take a are you recommending that? If you're recommending it, let me know, Shirley, that's fine. I would, send me a message on Facebook, and I'll take a look at what it is. Um, I will okay, that's it, there we go. Scott Forward has research paper. No, so, the thing is no, but I'm not so this is one of the questions we have to deal with. In general, I'm gonna just generalize about it. So if I was interested, I could read these technical papers, but I just said I'm not particularly. So so that this is part of the marketing issue that we have. I'm in marketing too, my brother. We're both out uh marketing. Uh I'm marketing my shtick, and you seem to be marketing this one. And I have to be there is a move. I've called it Erling, URLing. It's like you're puking up URLs at people. And there's two versions of this. One is, oh, you got to see this, you got to see this, because then you'd believe what I believe. Um, there's an uh, then you'd believe what I believe, and the other version is, and then you'd see you were wrong, or that you're wrong because you haven't seen these yet. That's a particular version of Erling that I've gotten from people, where they say, "Yeah, you don't know anything because you haven't seen this video and this video and this article and this and this." And so, I'm Michael. It's not about the content for me here. I'm talking about the moves we make in this economic system. Now, here's a question for you, Michael. Since you're interested in uh, in the potential for infinite money being produced, this is a sidebar, but is there infinite confidence? Is there enough confidence to go around? If there is, then it's actually not an issue in economics. It's not actually an economic issue. If economics is the allocation of finite resources in a world of infinite demand. That is, if there's not a tension because there's not as much supply as there is demand, then it's not an economic issue. For example, so far, air has not been an economic issue. There's enough to go around. That's not a great example because of pollution and all. But anything that we don't have to meter doesn't really come to economics. So here's a question for everybody: is there enough confidence to go around? I don't think so. I do not. And so that's why I think it's so fascinating. Okay, let's see. I'm into bloom scrolling, following flowers, and nature photographs. What the fuck are you doing here, Sir Crumbly Blunder Truss? I have, I don't even have, look at this. There's not a flower back there. Not a single flower. There might be some flowers in that photograph, but no, you're gonna find more flowers elsewhere. Anyway, I'm glad you're into that bloom scrolling. I am not. I haven't, for as much attention as I pay to biology, um, uh, I'm a little indifferent to the details of it. For example, I don't think I could name more than 5 flowers kinds, and and I love this Oscar Wilde line about nature. It's not me. I go out in nature, and it's very important to me that I get out there. But it's much for exercises to be in nature, and I got incredible nature to be in. I could be in your woods this afternoon. Um, but Oscar Wilde said that nature is a dark, damp place where birds fly about uncooked. I like that line. Okay. Uh, was just the way you were. Well, good. I'm glad. Nature's a good place to be. But I like that line too for the other side of it, because actually a lot of people are treating it like that these days. Okay. So, all right. We've got only a few minutes left. We got 20 minutes left. If you can bear with me. I can bear with me. This is me. You get me for an hour and a half like this. That's more than enough. I'm with me all the fucking time. I'm with me nonstop. It's a good thing I like it. Um, yeah. And there is a place that I think one can luckily get to where you're okay with with your discomfort. Um, and the craving for confidence, for mojo, is no longer insatiable. Um, I'm so we're watching these people who are insatiably seeking more money, and they're kind of mystifying to us. And not only that, we don't get to hear from them. I mean, there's almost no interviews. I've looked for them to understand the psychology of that kind of wealth accumulation, which I'm assuming is really confidence accumulation. It's not for the money. Money is just the scorekeeper for them. And I read a book by it was a psychologist, I think, who made that argument. Someone who had done a lot of research into Trump, and said, yeah, in his life, it's just been that's the measure of confidence. That's all it is. It's a scorecard, and you can imagine that he gets uncomfortable around people who have more money than him or are with sexier women. And I know that one personally too. So I inherited some millions, not a lot, but some millions. And most of the time I felt fine. But when I would hang out with someone who had more millions than me, it could be uncomfortable for me. So I get it. But I also think that if you find a confidence currency in the kind of exploration that I do, um, I don't know what it is, and it's pretentious for me to talk like it's a place, a destiny to go to. I can only talk about my experience of it, and once again, don't take my word for it, because it's self-reporting. I could just be saying flattering things. If it wasn't true, I'd be the last to know. I have an abiding appetite for confidence boosts, but it doesn't feel insatiable anymore. My confidence has come from finding more ideas, and I'm really addicted to that. If I ran out of ideas, I'd be in trouble. It's like everything else. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't seek it that way anymore. I don't seek it from playing music. I seek it from generating new ideas. And I've had several conversations, and just since this last week, with people who were in my world of ideas, and they're now in decline. And the words aren't coming, the ideas aren't coming, and they don't know what to do about it. One in particular, 84 years old. Michael, I mentioned him to you, brilliant economic thinker from my perspective. But his last book did okay, and he doesn't have time for another book. And he said to me this week, "You're not going to like it. I'm 69, he's 84. You're not going to like this come down." And I said, "You are so right. No, I don't know what I somehow we have to get to that place. But what I'm saying is that another friend said to me, because this last month I've gotten like a half million views on Facebook for these shorts I've been making. I don't make any money off of them because I'm not yet an earner that way. But a friend said, I bet you feel amazing." And I say, "Well, I've been up and down. I mean, my little bubbles, they don't last. People, people, I've never had a ride up to high degrees of relevance and fame. And so there's a way in which I am prepared for them to decline. And I'm also not primarily driven by that. So I'm talking here, I'm trying to talk generally about trying to understand what it is. How could we ever be okay with the confidence we can get? And one way is you don't get that much. And so you get used to it. Not everybody is trying to be, not everybody has the opportunity to pursue that much confidence. And more people don't. And yet you see the way that some of those people who were running low on confidence streamed into Trump's movement and gained as much confidence as they could. So there's a way in which the question might be, could you ever get to a place where if someone dangled that much confidence in front of you, infinite confidence, you wouldn't jump to it? I hope so. I hope I'm in that place, because man, that's not good for the world. Oh my gosh. All right, let's see what we've got here. Right. Okay. So this thing about just not afraid, Sir Crumbly Blunder trusts, that's an important one to me. So what is it? Why do I need confidence? To avoid that sinking feeling. That's the point. That's actually the point. But so to me, confidence is at minimum this okayness, but also in general, in biology and in life and in all the things I study, more is better. Um, a simple example would be if organisms operated at replacement rate, where two parents produce two kids, we wouldn't survive, or a single um, cloner cloned one time, because of vicissitudes, because of the variability, because of fire and theft and all of these other things that we insure ourselves against. I assume that humans crave will take what confidence there is. One way to say this, in economics, we say nobody leaves money on the table. If there's a profit to be made, someone will grab it. No one leaves confidence on the table. Why? I would say because we need to save for a rainy day. Who knows? I might plummet tomorrow. I'm going to need all the confidence I can get. Why? I don't want to be afraid. I don't want to be swallowed whole by self-doubt. I think that's just human. It's incredibly uncomfortable. I'm guessing you all know what it's like to have a dark night of the soul. It's no fucking fun. You might learn from it, but it's no fun. So I have no trouble understanding why humans would want to avoid that, with that sense that they have found some confidence currency that they can cling to for the rest of their lives. And in a way, that's all I'm saying I'm doing. My confidence currency is taking as careful notes as I can and putting them out with as much polish as I can muster, um, till the end of my ability to do that. And my best bet about what will happen to me in the end is that I'll be taking them alone because I'll become irrelevant. And I do have some friends who are like that, and I wish they'd stop. I mean, like friends who are still selling the brilliant insights that gave them confidence in the 1980s. Like those things are still hot ideas, um, and wish that they could be more popular for them. Um, to, it's good for me to have a plan for what to do with my noisy, uh, busy mind at the end, and I want to probably just do it as long as I can, and not bother people with it. Be put out to pasture when the time comes. Okay, confidence, the feeling of belief that one can rely on someone or something, firm trust. Good. And what I'm talking about here is confidence in oneself, which would depend on whether you can believe people around you. You might know this one, fun monster. I certainly do. So you put your trust in someone, and then it busts. It goes. It's an exploding cigar, and then you no longer trust your gut for a while, at least, to know who to trust. I did say to one girlfriend something like, I, I, as we were breaking up, don't. What did I say? It was something like, don't. I don't want to come out of this no longer trusting partnership. Or I might even said for her, I will do what I can to make it so you come out of this, maybe not trusting me, but still, I don't want to. It's not good to burn people out on the whole thing of trust, because you can get to a point where you've been burnt so many times that you just don't trust anybody. Um, so anyway, yes, so something like that. And remember, I have this term confidence, which is a calm confidence, which might be closer to what I was describing before, where you're not insatiable for confidence boosts. You're One way you can get insatiable for confidence boosts is if you get a lot of them. Every one of them is an uptick. It's a buzz. So we'll think about it in terms of relationship and the challenge of getting partnered with someone. So at first, it's just you're surging with this urge to merge. And the closer you get, every date at the beginning is a delight because you get more and more intimate, more and more confidence from each other. You milk it at the beginning. That's the honeymoon period, and then you're stuck together, and you're not getting as much confidence as you did. And this would be a good explanation for why a lot of people are just harvesting the front end off of dating and not wanting to stick around for the end. They'll just go get the confidence they can from one place, and then go get from one person, then from another person. The serial daters would be like that, and I understand it. I was one for a while. um Anyway, I was one for a while is maybe my motto here. Okay, I must admit, English private schools produce a level of confidence I wish we all had, but that's more to do with them being bred to rule, I guess. Yeah, you believe it or not, I've been watching The Gilded Age. I like that shit too. Um, yeah, and those, believe it or not, they call those public schools. The private schools in England are called public schools. But anyway, yes, they're bred for that, and so that's the sense. And also, you get that expectation from those families that you have to amount to something big. And I felt that big, even though, I mean, I was just thinking last night for the first time, um, I should have reveled. My people had suffered just, a generation before, but I felt so guilty and so obligated to make something of myself when I inherited that money. Yeah, it's interesting. Um, okay, let's see. It's a massive level of entitlement too. Well, so that's the thing. I think of this confidence market, the egonomics or affirmationomics, as a black market. And I also think that, um, because, for example, I could say, yeah, I need a partner because I need to have sex regularly. Or I could say, I need a partner because I need confidence boosts regularly, which is more embarrassing to say. The latter. You don't want to talk about your need for confidence. And one part of that is you would You will tend to take it for granted. You will tend to assume whatever is giving you confidence. You won't tend to notice it. Um, uh, because you're looking for more confidence and because you don't want to admit that you're seeking confidence. Um, that's a guess at it. I did turn it into a song. I've probably shared it before, goes without saying, but bears repeating. I have this song "Downhill from Here" that you could find on YouTube, which is um, which is about kind of it's a kind of gratitude because I'm going to run out because this stuff won't last, that the confidence won't last. I, I'm that's probably a brain fart. Let me just skip that. Okay, it's a massive level of entitlement, right? So I'm interested. So entitlement is a really interesting word because it sounds wrong, but we also call welfare programs entitlements. Um, what does it mean? You are actually justified. You are titled to have it. You are with title to something. So I am actually entitled to the house I live in, as are you. So it's a massive amount of entitlement. Um, my wife said to me as we were breaking up that I grew up feeling entitled, that I did, and that she grew up feeling unentitled, woman, but also yeah, mostly woman. I mean, she came from upper middle class Birmingham, Alabama, but yeah, so there are these disparities of what we think we're entitled to, and they're certainly not egalitarian. As we are not born into the same luck. And I will probably burden you with this last question that Michael would have a different answer to, perhaps. He would dodge this question, I think, with MMT. He would say that MMT gives you a way around it. But here's the question. I've mentioned it before. I don't have a good answer to it. Um, this is a world in which we have never been able to maintain equality for long. Um, uh, uh, and for understandable reasons. We are not born equal. There's nothing about evolution that designed is designing for equality, equal opportunity. In fact, it relies on differential survival rates for it to work. And it's not trying to do anything anyway. Evolution is not an active agent. But one way or another, clearly we were born with different uh, uh, um, appetites, aptitudes, opportunities. Basically, opportunities would include wherewithal within us. So that's aptitudes. And opportunities would be external, and they're very varied. Okay, so here's the hard question. If that is so, and it takes enormous work to make anything fair, and it's work that has to be maintained. You have to do ongoing work to maintain fairness. It's kind of amazing we lasted 250 years here in the U.S. with even as bad a degree of inequality as we had. But there was at least an effort, sort of a little bit, and now it's fallen apart. But here's my question: so if you were in charge of the world, who would you make the haves and who would you make the have-nots? I call it philosophy's choice, Sophie's choice. Um, uh, so that's a hard question. I don't have an answer for it. I mean, if I was forced at gunpoint, I could come up with some answer that had to do with meritocracy or something like that. But meritocracy is itself heartbreaking because what are you going to do about your beloved child who was born disabled and in all respects, like let's say physically and mentally disabled? Um, they get designated the have-nots. It's a real complicated question, and I think we liberals and even Trumpists, I think that we all would like to pretend that we have found a formula. It gives us confidence to pretend we have found a formula that would eliminate inequality. I know that sounds weird to say as something that the MAGA people are saying, but when they say make America great, they're so fuzzy headed, they're not even thinking about it. One version of it would be equal be among the good people, but not the bad people. I would stop with, okay, Medicare for all. Okay, so you're not actually dealing with the question. That's my point, is that you wouldn't deal with that question. You would say more for everyone. You'd be Bernie Sanders like me, maybe. That's where I am. Yeah, it'd be a mix of those, but I'm still asking a different question. And and I notice the appetite to come around it with some formula. I'm saying if you had to designate some whole faction of humankind as the people to be dispensed with or to suffer their lives, their short, miserable lives, who would you choose? And I don't like the question. I don't want to answer it. I don't have an answer to it. Um, I do wish that we had equality and fairness and a mix of capitalism and socialism, and producers get more and also pay more. Let's see. Oh, these various measures. Remember, I studied public policy at Berkeley because I was trying to figure out how to do this stuff. But in the meantime, I think the question is worth haunting yourself with occasionally. Just remember that there's never been equality. Even if there was enough to go around, there is this tendency for the rich to get richer. So what would you do about that? Um, in a way, basic income, job guarantees, higher taxes, those are all measures to deal with it. Can we ever escape suffering? Yes. So, Michael, I'll end with this. Um, yes, we can, depending on how you phrase that last sentence. So it can be taken two ways. Can I escape suffering forever or eternally? No. Can I escape some suffering? Yeah. One way I think about this is people say there's no free lunches. It's true, there's no free lunches, but there are certainly cheaper lunches. And in general, humans go for them. We seek out the more efficient way to do whatever we want to do. Um, okay. I hope this was useful for you. I hope it was fun. Come join the Sunday group tomorrow if you like. There we get to talk where it's not just me mouthing for an hour and a half straight. And I'll be back next week as always. And feel free to write to me if I've if I've said something you find amiss. If you want to say, Jeremy, you ignorant slut, you can say that all to me in email. Just email me. We can talk about whatever. Or if you're curious about something, or if you're going through something in your personal life that you want to talk about, I have clients who do that, but I also do. I just I'll give you my I'll give you my 2 cents on whatever because it's 2 cents. It's cheap. All right. Thank you for being here. I'll see you guys next time.